The Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney was booed this week as he made a brave, some would even say foolhardy, pitch for black votes at the NAACP conference. Traditionally, the Republicans have found it hard to attract black supporters in recent years. But my next guest has never been one to go down traditional lines. He is the business magnate, the radio host, the founder of CainTV.com and activist Herman Cain, who, of course, stood against Mitt Romney for the nomination, but has since endorsed him, and he joins us now live from Atlanta. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Cain. Was Mitt Romney basically wasting his time when he made that appeal for African-American votes at the NAACP?
No, he was not. I give him an A for attending and speaking, and an A for staying on message and talking about how he's going to boost the economy and cut spending. Now, he gets a B for the boos because the boos could have been louder. The objective was not to win black votes by speaking to the NAACP. It was, as you would say in tennis, to hold serve. And if he had not attended, you would have seen in the media, the mainstream media here in the States, at least a week castrating him for not even attending. But yet, there's obviously a double standard. President Obama is not getting the same treatment for not being there because of scheduling conflicts. So I do not believe it was a mistake for Governor Romney to speak before the NAACP. He did it out of respect, and he was able to at least get his message across to some of the attendees.
Vice President Joe Biden, of course, did attend on behalf of the administration and the ticket, the Democratic ticket. But it does appear, doesn't it, that African-American votes go pretty solidly, something like 19-1 in the direction of the Democrats these days.
Well, that is true in part, but I don't believe the poll results or the exit polls that say that President Obama got 95% of the black vote in the last presidential election. And I also do not believe he will get 95% this time around. What happens, in my opinion, because I still go to church in the black community, I have a lot of black friends, what I believe is because of potential intimidation, they may not necessarily tell a exit poll survey person exactly what they did in that booth. Anecdotally, I have many of my friends and many people that I run into who are black who tell me that they're not going to vote for Barack Obama. And I don't believe that I am running into a totally biased sample. So I don't believe that the number is going to be as high as it was last time.
I mean, there is even the suggestion that Mr. Romney had to bus in his own supporters to the NAACP.
Well, that story I'm not sure of, but I still give him very high marks for attending and speaking. I probably would not have used what I call some trigger words like repeal Obamacare that elicit more emotion from people, particularly that audience. And so it's not surprising when he used those words that he elicited the emotion and the reaction that he got. But I still commend him for attending and speaking.
OK, now, apart from that, it hasn't been a great week for Mr. Romney. He was filmed on a jet ski, which reminded people that he's 700 times more wealthy than the average American. He has had some questions about his record. Of course, the big decision he's got to take between now and November is his vice presidential choice. How does he win from here, bearing in mind that he is a little bit behind in national opinion polls?
Well, I think that there's still plenty of time. Many of the American people and the public, they are not paying as close attention to this presidential race yet as they will following the Republican National Convention. And so for him to play a major bold card at this point, I agree with his strategy. It's too early. Secondly, the fact that he happens to be wealthy, that is a good thing in America. It's only the liberal media and this administration that's trying to put a bad light on someone who has achieved wealth. I'm comfortable in my life, but when I started out, one of my goals was to achieve some wealth. It is not a bad thing. But when the administration has very little to talk about relative to the performance of the economy, then they're going to resort to class warfare and in some instances playing the race card.
What about this vice presidential choice nominate, who to go on the ticket with? How important is that? There's suggestions that perhaps Condoleezza Rice would be the best person to appoint. What do you think?
I believe that the former Secretary of State would be an excellent choice. There are a number of excellent choices. The person who has to make that decision is Governor Romney. And I know that there are a lot of things to consider, and it can't be a choice based upon one single dimension. And that's why it's such a difficult choice. But because Governor Romney put together a team and a process to try to evaluate all of these dimensions, I think he will end up with a choice that will complement the ticket in the November election.
You spent a lot of time with him, all those debates back in the spring. Is Mitt Romney a nice guy?
Governor Romney is a very nice guy. And I can say that about Governor Romney. I can say that about Newt Gingrich. I can say that about a number of the candidates, but there's no question he is a very nice guy. And he was one of the most cordial contestants when I was still in the race of all of the ones that I debated against. So there's no question that he's a very nice guy. In fact, in some instances, he might be too nice, and he may have to get a little tougher before this election is over with.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. Herman Cain, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Atlanta.